Hello, hello, hello. I am your host OCL, and welcome back to One Century Later. Today we'll be taking a look at all events from July 4th to July 10th, 1926. As with last week, all of my sources are in the description down below. Sunday, July 4th, 1926. The Forest River Massacre came to an end in Western Australia as the police raiding party returned to the Forest River mission with their 30 captives, including Lumbia, who was responsible for the May 23rd murder of Frederick Hay. All captives, aside from Lumbia and 3 others, were released, with Lumbia questioned about and confessing to his involvement in Hay's murder. The exact number of deaths during the Forest River Massacre is unknown, with sources ranging from 30 to 300 murdered in the search for Lumbia. Also on this day, torrential rains hit Germany, causing flooding throughout the country. Flooding was reported in Berlin, Bavaria, and in Lake Constance on the German-Swiss-Austrian border. 31 people died from the floods, including 6 people on Lake Constance, 5 relief workers in Hirschberg, and 3 farmers in Chemnitz who committed suicide following the loss of their crops. The Second Party Congress of the German Nazi Party came to a close in Weimar, Germany. During the 2-day Congress, the Nazi Party rebranded the Großdeutsche Jugendbewegung, or Greater German Youth Movement, to the Hitlerjugendbund der Deutsch-Arbeiterjugend, or Hitler Youth League of German Worker Youth, known as the Hitler Youth. Also on this day, on the sesquicentennial anniversary of the founding of the United States, thunderstorms struck Philadelphia, damaging part of the sesquicentennial exposition, particularly the Palace of Agriculture, and damaging the exhibit dedicated to the state of Maryland. Despite controversy of opening on the Sabbath, an estimated 25,000 people visited the expo on Independence Day. Poland also celebrated the 150th anniversary of the United States by collecting signatures from over 5 million of the 30 million people living in Poland for the Polish declarations of admiration and friendship for the United States. The 111 volumes and 30,000 pages in the declarations acknowledged and thanked America for its aid to Poland during World War I and the Polish-Soviet War. Lastly on this day, 21 of the 53 prisoners at the Blue Ridge State Prison Farm in Blue Ridge, Texas, escaped after sawing through the main building of the prison. Not much is known about what happened to the escaped prisoners or the ones that chose to remain behind after the escape. Monday, July 5th, 1926. A week after the June 28th earthquake in Sumatra, another earthquake struck with a moment magnitude of 6.8. Since the June 28th earthquake, the region had been experiencing aftershocks and would continue to experience them until July 7th. This newest earthquake brought the total death toll in the region to over 450. Also on this day, the wreckage of the United States submarine USS S-51 was raised by the USS Falcon minesweeper following the failed attempt on June 22nd. The S-51 had sunk off the Rhode Island coast on September 25th after the merchant vessel City of Rome collided into it. Of the 33 crew members who died in the collision and sinking, 25 were inside the submarine. The submarine was sold for scrap in 1930 with its bell given to the Submarine Force Library and Museum in Groton, Connecticut. Also on this day, the First World Conference on Narcotic Education opened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. During the conference, the chief of the Bureau of Criminal Identifications of New York City gave an address stating that drug addicts can't be cured, and the only way to handle the situation is to kill them off or let them die off. Tuesday, July 6th, 1926. Chinese military commander Chiang Kai-shek was elected as the chairman of the Central Executive Committee of the Kuomintang Party. The first Elektrichka train was inaugurated in the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic. The electrically powered commuter train ran between the Azerbaijani capital of Baku and the Baku suburb of Sabunku. And lastly on this day, during pilot Alan Cobham's and flight engineer Arthur Elliott's flight from England to Australia in a modified de Havilland DH-50 seaplane, an explosion tore through the plane, wounding Elliott after taking off from the Tigris River in Iraq. Popham was able to fly to Basra, Iraq, where Elliot was hospitalized. It was later determined that the explosion was caused by a Bedouin tribesman who fired on the plane, striking the fuel line and wounding Elliot. Unfortunately, Elliot would succumb to his wounds the following day. Popham would continue his flight to Australia with J.C. Moore as his flight engineer and mechanic. Wednesday, July 7th, 1926. Cambodian communist Lau Kim Lom, today known as Nuon Che, was born in Votpur, Battambang province in French Indochina. Che was the second in command to Pol Pot during the Cambodian genocide, where he was given the nickname of Brother Number 2 and was the acting prime minister of Democratic Kampuchea for 1 month in 1976. Pea died in the Khmer Soviet Friendship Hospital in 2019 at the age of 93 from sepsis caused by an infected toe. Thursday, July 8th, 1926. Swiss psychiatrist Elisabeth Kubler-Ross was born in Zurich, Switzerland. Kubler-Ross was known for her 1969 book on death and dying, in which she developed the Kubler-Ross model of the 5 stages of grief. Also on this day, the British Coal Mines Regulation Act of 1908 was amended when the 8-hour bill was given royal assent by King George V. The bill increased the amount of work for coal miners from 7-hour workdays to 8-hour days. This bill came during the midst of a British coal miner strike, which had been going on since May 1st. And lastly, on this day, United States Representative John David Dingell Jr. was born in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Dingell served as the representative from Michigan for 59 years from 1955 to 2015. He is the longest-serving member of Congress in American history. Dingell died in 2019 at the age of 92 from prostate cancer. Friday, July 9th, 1926. The Northern Expedition began in China when the newly elected chairman of the Central Executive Committee, Chiang Kai-shek, marched with 100,000 soldiers of the National Revolutionary Army to defeat the Chinese warlords and attempt to reunite China. Also on this day, in an effort to curb the smuggling of currency into and out of the Soviet Union, the USSR passed a law forbidding the transportation of the chervonets currency out of the nation. The chervonets, each worth 10 rubles, were a more stable currency for foreign markets than the ruble, and thus highly popular in the smuggling economy into and out of Russia. Saturday, July 10th, 1926. An annular solar eclipse was visible from the Pacific Ocean. Because of the international dateline, the solstice began at 10:05 a.m. local time in Indonesia and ended at approximately 6:08 p.m. local time in Costa Rica on July 9th. Being an annular solar eclipse, the moon was almost at its furthest point from Earth and didn't fully block out the sun, leaving a small solar ring around the moon. With most of the annularity occurring over uninhabited islands in the Pacific, an estimated 12 people saw complete annularity, mainly in the U.S. military base of Midway Atoll. And lastly, the Lake Denmark Naval Ammunition Depot of the Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey was struck by lightning and caught fire. During the fire, temporary storehouse number 8, housing 300,000 kilograms of TNT, temporary storehouse number 9 with 730,000 kilograms, and shell storehouse number 22 with 80,000 kilograms exploded. Of the 200 buildings in the depot, 187 were demolished, with debris found over 20 miles from the blast. Minor explosions and fires continued until July 13th when rain doused the area. 19 people died in the fire and subsequent explosion. 51 were injured, with an estimated property damage of $84 million. As a result of the explosion, Congress created the Department of Defense Explosive Safety Board to oversee the storage of ammunition in military bases. And that is all. See you next week for all events from Sunday, July 11th, 1926 to Saturday, July 17th, 1926. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.